everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Kiki and today's video is going to be a little bit of a reading update, mini review, books I've read so far in 2024. I have actually read 61 books. Don't ask me how. I apparently am using reading as a coping mechanism in my life right now. So here we are, 61 books and we're in May. I feel like it's been forever since I've made a YouTube video and just sat down and chatted about books and why I like them, why I didn't like them, whether I think they're worth the hype, whether I think they're not worth the hype, or anything like that. So I've literally just gone through my Goodreads list and picked out a bunch of books out of the 61 books I've read so far, and we're going to chat about them. There are some popular books in this list that I don't think are worth the hype. So the first book I have here is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I was not going to read this book at all. Not one part of me was interested in reading this, even with all the hype I saw on socials. Didn't want to. I really did not like this cover. It has grown on me since I've read the book, but I did not like this cover. I prefer the US cover, but here in Australia, this is the cover that we got. I really loved Divine Rivals. I thought this was such a refreshing, unique fantasy book. It was such an easy read. The world building was amazing. The characters were amazing. The story itself was just so different and just really, really refreshing. So I highly recommend. The next book I have here is Pirate Girls. This is book 2 in the Hellbent series, which is the spin-off series to Fall Away by Penelope Douglas. The first book in the Fall Away series is Bully. I do have a how-to guide on how to read these series because I do believe you have to read the Fall Away series before you read the Hellbent series. Pirate Girls here follows Dylan, who is Jared and Tate's daughter in Bully, and this book has so much nostalgia in it for me. I loved it. It also has Noah from Credence in here. Now, if you are a fan of Credence and you loved Noah, you should really go read the Fall Away series and then catch up and start reading the new Hellbent series. Noah is mentioned a little bit in book 1, Falls Boys. Book 2, Pirate Girls, he's actually in this a lot and he's there for Dylan so much, and that was just such a great thing to read. The scenes between Maddox and Jared from the Fall Away series were so hilarious and so spot on. The emotion between Cade and Hunter just hit me in my feels, and I really, really like this. The mystery subplot in this was so much more easier to read in Pirates Girls compared to Falls Boys as well, and I really appreciated that because in Falls Boys I was confused. Really confused. So it was great to kind of catch up and wrap my head around it here in Pirate Girls, but I loved this one. I read it a couple of weeks ago now and it's still kind of living rent-free in my head. The next book I have here is The Play by Elle Kennedy. I am slowly making my way through the Briar U series. I really loved the Off-Campus series, but for some reason the Briar U series didn't hit me like the Off-Campus series did. But I'm telling you now, Hunter, our MMC in this book, is Elle Kennedy's most underrated MMC I have ever read, and I've read a lot of Elle Kennedy books. I loved him in this book. He was so good. So good. This whole book had me in a chokehold. The next book I have is a reread. So I do like to reread some of my favorites every now and then. It is my birthday month, and because it's my birthday month, I decided to reread Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is a 5-star read. I freaking love Pike Lawson so much. If there is ever an age gap romance I could recommend to anyone, Birthday Girl would be the recommendation. Like top tier. This book, 5 stars, infinity stars. I read it back in 2022 and I was really kind of scared rereading it and thinking, am I going to like this book? I don't know if I'm going to like this book again because my reading tastes have evolved and changed over the last 2 years. I can now say that I still love this book as much as I did 2 years ago. The next book got a lot of hype towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year on Bookstagram for me, The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. This book hit me in my feels at the end. I will admit it was quite slow at the beginning and I wasn't sure what the hype was about. I wasn't sure if people were lying to me or if I was just reading a different book or anything like that. Towards the end, things started speeding up a little bit more. I started falling in love with the characters more. The ending just had me absolutely crying. Like, it really broke my heart, the ending. So I do think this one is worth the hype. You've just got to kind of get through those first few chapters, because I did find it started out quite slow. Hale by Anastasia. Why? This was a 4.5 star read for me. I really, really enjoyed this one. It's got everything you want in a book. We've got single dad, nanny, sports romance. It is a soccer romance too, which I really loved. A bit different. I feel like everyone's writing hockey romances these days, so it was really cool to read another sport for once. But the sass, the friendships, the emotions, the banter, I really loved this one. I highly recommend it if you love a single dad trope, if you love a nanny trope, if you love a sports romance. This one kind of has it all. We've got an age gap as well and forced proximity. So a lot of my favorite tropes in this book here, and it was definitely worth it. Also, can we just take a moment for this cover? Such a pretty cover. Like, I really love this cover. Okay, the next book I have is a really hyped book. A lot of people love this book. So if you can't accept any criticism on this book, please just fast forward a little bit, because this book was not it. I don't know what anyone else is reading, but Mile High was not a good book. Did you know this book has borderline feederism in it? Our female main character in this book was so unhealthy. This is not curvy rep done right in my mind. This book made me want to go to the gym after I finished reading it. Towards the end of the book, our female main character turns around and says to the MMC, "You need to stop feeding me." And he replies back with, "But I enjoy feeding you." Borderline feederism, guys. The body shaming in this book was ridiculous, because skinny shaming is just as bad as fat shaming. So I really don't think Mile High is worth the hype at all. I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is just my opinion. So if you did love this book, that's amazing. I'm glad you read it in a different way to how I read it. The next two books I have here are Done and Dusted and Swift and Saddled. Look, I enjoyed these. I don't think they're anything to rave about. I feel like we've read them before. I feel like they were quite but good Like, they were good. They weren't amazing. There was nothing special in them for me. In saying that though, they were very easy reads, very easy to read, very quick, very like easy to fall in love with. So I'm kind of on the fence with it, to be honest. What I can say though is that I absolutely love these covers. These covers are so unique and so different. Like, I'm not a fan of cartoon covers, but I think the way these are done are just so spot on. The next book I have is Wildfire. I did a reading vlog on Icebreaker, which is book 1 in the Maple Hills series, and I was on the fence with that book. I rated it 4 stars. I enjoyed it, but there were things in there that I didn't like. This one here was a 3.5 star read for me. Super easy, super light, fluffy romance. If that is your thing, you will love this book. I'm not a huge fan on light and fluffy romances. They're easy to read, yes. I feel like my reading taste, I need a lot more emotion in my books. Whilst I enjoyed this one, I didn't absolutely love it. The next book I have is also a very hyped up book, recently hyped too. All My Books to Besties. Love this book. The majority of my books to besties gave this book 5 stars. Wild Love by Elsie Silver. Please don't come for me, but this book was so boring. The random sperm donor to happy family plotline was so bizarre to me and just so not it. Like, the fact that she's 12, I'm not gonna lie, I had to age Cora up in my head and she was 15 the whole time I was reading this book. She was not a 12-year-old girl in my head at all. The emails were boring. The journal thing was kind of cool. I did like that. There was no angst and no build up to this though. There was no tension. It was a bit bland, to be honest. I really struggled reading this one. I think I'm very much in the minority here. In my mind, for what I read and how I read it, this is not worth the hype at all. I did enjoy the Chestnut Spring series, but this one here was just not on the same level. The next book I have here is Strung Along by Hannah Cowan. Now, I went down a Hannah Cowan rabbit hole towards the end of last year. I read all her books. When she came out this year saying that she was releasing a small town cowboy romance, I was all over that. Welcome to Cherry Peak, friends. Like, firstly, look at this cover. Hannah Cowan does some of the best covers I have ever looked at. Just look at these. These are so stunning, and that's just 2 of them. I have like a whole shelf of them back there of Hannah Cowan books. Strung Along. Loved this book. Really, really enjoyed it. Loved being in Cherry Peak. Loved getting to know the characters and everything like that. You kind of got like a cowboy cross country music star romance here. So definitely recommend this one. Okay, the last series I'm going to talk about is the Stone Riders series by Ashley Munoz. Where We Started, Where We Belong, and Where We Promise. This series has me in a chokehold. Book 1, Where We Started. I cannot tell you how much that book affected my real life. Like, I was so caught up in the emotion of that book that I would be sitting there at the dinner table at night and my husband would be like, "Babe, are you okay? Like, what's wrong?" And I'm sitting there like all choked up because of this book, and I just couldn't contain my emotions. The way Ashley Munoz writes her angst and her tension is completely next level. It's a MC romance. It's a great introductory to MC romances because it's not a dark MC romance, and it doesn't really focus too much on the actual club settings. It focuses more on the romance of the books. If you're wanting to get into reading MC romances, I definitely highly recommend this series by Ashley Munoz because 1, it'll have you in a chokehold. It'll be pulling all the emotions out of you. You'll absolutely fall in love with the characters, and it's not too dark. There are dark themes in there, but it's not super dark. I would not call it a dark romance, so it's great to dip your toes into if you are new to that sort of like genre. Book 3, Where We Promise, didn't have as much feeling to it as the first 2 books, but I do believe book 3 is more of a setup book for book 4. And I really, really cannot wait for book 4 that is coming soon. So that is just a handful of books from the 61 books that I have read this year so far. If you have read any of these books and either disagree or agree with my opinions, drop a comment below and let me know. Especially with the really hyped up books like Mile High and Wild Love and Done and Dusted. I would love to know if you agree with me on those books or if you disagree with me and absolutely loved them. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit like, please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.